Welcome into Rollin Illini here in WPGU 107.1. I'm Ryan Wilson. Back and better than ever. These clowns took over the show last week and made fun of me for acting and missing the show. Jeez, I'm back. We're gonna have a fun show.
Well, excuse me for trying to, take the reins here while you were on leave.
I knew you were going to comment on last week, but I wasn't expecting you to do it so soon.
Yeah, we're doing some smoke and mirrors here. And it's actually Thursday here. Well, this later on Friday. And James Boyd, of course, here he's doing an intro, I guess.
I was trying to.
He sounded just like me. Will Gerard. Always here. We had a fun little segment with Ron Malik, former wheelchair racer here at the U of I. Fun stuff. But I'm glad to be back with these knuckleheads. I think we have a good show, as we're sitting in a small studio about a foot from each other. No visuals today, I think. No video, at least. Probably a good thing. But I missed...
I look cute.
That is true.
Oh, thank you.
I missed last week for acting. Not gonna miss it again. So we're gonna have a fun little segment with Ron Malik here, coming up right now. Welcome back to Rollin Illini here on WPGU 107.1 and UPT. Ryan Wilson back. Will Gerard, James Boyd, and we are joined by Ron Malik. How are you, Ron?
Doing just fine today. Doing just fine.
Now, I know I've been talking with Pat, your wife, and she's been running me through this goal of yours to do 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 months. My gosh, it's a mouthful, but take me through the decision to do that.
It was one of the things that I have some friends that have done the 50-state thing over time, and all of them are individuals that run, that haven't used a chair or a hand cycle. And a few years ago, I got involved with the National Wheelchair Sports Camp up in Minnesota, Stewartsville, Minnesota, just south of Minneapolis, and talking to different guys, friends from way back and one thing or another, and we were all thinking of different ways that we could help the camp and spread the message about wheelchair sports and things like that. And I thought, well, no man has done the 50 states, 50 marathons yet. There's nobody male that's done it. There has been one female do it in a chair. So I thought that I could combine and do a personal goal of doing 50 states, and at the same time turn it into a fundraiser and an educational thing to bring wheelchair athletics to different venues and to raise some money and to set a personal goal just to say that I can still do it. And that's kind of how it got started.
Sure. Now, as you've gone around to these different areas so far, do you feel like it's really been an educational experience for other people?
It has been. My races to this point have been mixed, where I have either been the only person there in a chair, hand cycle racing, to ones that have numerous people in. But even there, when I'm going and I'm talking to some of the other people, there I'm promoting the wheelchair I have my national. Just a minute. My dog. Somebody came to the door.
Okay.
Every time I do it, my national project is always raising money for the wheelchair sports camp and to spread the thing. But every time I do a local marathon, I also pick a local charity, some place in the area that either a friend of mine or somebody else or a wheelchair group has, and put it up as the local charity. When I did the Illinois, my Illinois marathon was Peoria, and I used to coach at Tremont High School, and I retired. So in that case, I did the Tremont Athletic Association as a local charity, and helped them raise some money as well as they knew what I was doing, and they've always supported me. When I was up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I used the Grand Rapids Ambucks, the American Business Club, as the local charity because they provide hand cycles, or Amtrikes they call them, which is a therapeutic hand cycle, to kids with disabilities. So it's one of those things that I'm working on my national project and trying to help locals out all at the same time.
Hey Ron, this is Will here. One question I have for you is how many marathons have you competed in so far, and how far have you traveled?
Well, I just started this in April of this year, and I started in Tennessee. I did Knoxville, then I went to Pittsburgh, then I went to Nebraska and did the Nebraska State Fair Marathon. I did Dick's Sporting Good in Pittsburgh. Then I went to Dayton, Ohio, and did the Air Force Marathon, did the Beyond the Beach Marathon in Indiana, then did the Illinois Marathon and the Grand Rapids Marathon. Well, not the Illinois, but the Peoria Whiskey Battle Marathon in Illinois, then Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I guess the furthest I traveled is toss-up so far between either Knoxville or Nebraska. I'm not sure which one was a further drive. And we leave next week to go to New York. And we'll be doing the New York Marathon. And then I'm going to take the month of December off, and then in January, I start doing some serious traveling. I'll be in Texas and then Phoenix, and I'm not sure where I go from there, but in June of next year, I do Idaho, Wyoming, and I forget whether it's South Dakota. Yeah, Wyoming, South Dakota, and Idaho all at the same time. There's a lake up there. It's called Bear Lake, and you run 3 marathons in 3 days, one in each state, and it's like 45 miles between each of them. Each of the little towns that do the marathons around this lake. So I'll be doing 3 marathons in 3 days in 3 states.
Oh my gosh. How do you think you'll feel after that?
Tired. I did back-to-back once this year. I did when I did the Dayton Marathon or the Air Force Marathon. I did that on Saturday morning, then Sunday morning did the Beyond the Beach Marathon in Gary, Indiana. And actually, I had a very good run on Sunday morning, but the drive back Sunday afternoon, it caught up with me. So I get a feeling that when we go out to Bear Lake, that Pat will be doing most of the driving coming back, because I have a feeling after the 3rd marathon, I'm not going to be good for much.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, this is James, by the way. Ron, what is the recovery process like? What is the training process like, just to make sure you have enough energy to get through each and every marathon, knowing that you have countless more right after?
The training process, I actually have a good friend that is coaching me, and he has been a marathoner for years, and he lives in this. So he's completing his PhD in it. So I'm kind of one of his test studies, as well as he's put together some good training plans. But it's all based upon my heart rate. And at my age, I'm 63, so this is quite a feat to do this.
Yes.
But so it's all based on heart rate, and we do my workouts. Every workout I do is a targeted heart rate goal, whether it be a speed workout or a threshold workout. This morning the workout consisted of doing hills, which I hate to do, but I have a series of hills that I do that are 9% and 11% grades that really give me a workout to get up the hill. And then after I get all done with that, I had to do 1 mile as fast as I could go 2 times, just to work on some endurance stuff. But he puts that plan together. Now tomorrow I'll have a day off after that. But then on Saturday I do a 30-mile run, and that'll be and that is at a heart rate of only 120. So that way I'll taper all week to go to New York. So every day is based upon where my heart rate is and my workouts to get my heart rate to certain places, and that's what does the endurance. It's pretty much, and even when I do the race, I wear a heart rate monitor, especially when I'm doing the back-to-back, so that I know where I keep my heart rate for the first one, and then the second one I can go all out.
So you talked about how you hate some of the training exercises, but what do you think it is about the marathon, just the journey itself, and this feat that makes you love it, despite having to do things that you don't always want to do?
When I get out there and I get going, it's one of those things that I feel very comfortable. I'm not saying that it is not hard and that I don't get extremely tired. There's been a few hills that have really wiped me out in the middle of marathons that then I have to do the recovery. But it's one of those things that when I get done, I just feel good that I completed another goal, another thing. And at each marathon I have a milestone as to what my time I want to do and other things like that. But it's a matter of, I've done another one. I've introduced more people to either National Sports Camp or to the people doing hand cycles and racing chairs and what we're capable of, and raised a few dollars for the other people. Actually, the best I ever felt, even though it was a tough marathon, was after I did Pittsburgh, because there we raised more money for the National Sports Camp than I did at any of the others. So that was a great feeling, knowing that the money was raised to do the stuff. And not only that, but there was local people and other things there that I got to see some old friends and do a few other things. And that's part of it too, is I started racing in the 70s there at the U of I, and then went on and raced in the national and level and did marathons as well as track and field, and was on the U.S. team in archery and basketball. So this is just one more thing that it's a goal that I never, I got out of it because I went into archery and started doing coaching, and then had kids and stuff like that, so I never got back to where I could do the marathons, which I liked. So this is fulfilling something that I put on hold.
Sure. Now you talked about the recovery process from a marathon. How was your recovery process compared now with when you did a marathon or racing in the 70s?
I can't even compare what I did in the 70s to now. First of all, I was younger, and second of all, the equipment that we raced in the 70s is nowhere near what we're racing in these days as far as the stroke and what it takes to do a marathon. Back in those days, nobody ever dreamed of, in the 70s and into early 80s, of doing marathons under 2 hours. It was quite a feat, and you worked 1:45. And I don't feel, and of course I'm doing it in a hand cycle as opposed to an old four-wheel chair that was not even a great racer in those days. So, you know, I get done, I don't feel nearly as tired. I remember doing the Marty Morris and Sharon and I and a few others used to do the Monticello 10K road race, and we used to be real happy when we were break 30 minutes and we'd get done with a 30-minute race and be totally exhausted and ache for the rest of the day because of the type of chairs and the way that we raced. Today, even when I did Boston a couple years ago in my racer, not in the hand cycle, I felt better at the end of that race, even though I was tired, than I think I felt doing those 10Ks back in the 70s. So it's, most of it's the equipment. The other part is we do a whole lot different training styles and techniques these days. And it's less hard on the shoulders and the arms and other things.
Sure. Now, if you're communicating with kind of your coach virtually, how is he able to kind of gauge a complete analysis of how you're progressing and how you're feeling?
We use a program that's called HRV for training, and I measure my heart rate variables every day in the morning, so he knows, and then he gets the data right away and knows what's what. And then I do the training session, and my Garmin uploads all of the data from what I did every lap, my heart rate monitor, my what the section of the training was, whether it was hills. Like this morning I did the first hill section, and that was marked off in one, and it had my heart rate, my cadence and everything else for that hill section. Then I did a rest section, and there again all that data was collected, each one as a segment, and then all those segments were sent to Santi, and he takes a look at each one of them and where my heart rate is and what is doing, and over the time, because of that, we've been able to, I know what my most efficient cadence is. I've been able to identify, what cadence I need to do and still be able to recover and keep up. It's phenomenal because I can recover and keep up a good speed and lower my heart rate in a recovery, knowing which cadence to use and what to do. So he does all of that, and those are all things that he's figured out from him collecting the data. And then we use, when I train on a roller, we use a program called Zoom. It's it's like Skype or one of the others, but Zoom allows you to do a few different things. And with the Zoom program, he can actually be watching me on the roller and see what my Garmin is saying, what my heart rate is doing, all of that all at the same time, and then make adjustments when we're training.
Wow.
Hey Ron, this is Will again. I know one thing you mentioned is that Pittsburgh stood out to you because of how much money you raised. But one question I have for you is, out of all the marathons you've competed in, which ones have stood out to you so far? Are there any really interesting routes you've been on, and are there any that you kind of have circled on the calendar that are coming up soon that you really want to compete in?
I really liked the Beyond the Beach one, and up in Gary, Indiana. I know it sounds strange, but it's because we actually ran on trails that ran along the dunes along Lake Michigan, and they were bike trails. So I really liked it because it had a great view, and I was the only hand cyclist in the event, so I was out ahead of everybody. So it was kind of like a marathon, but yet an isolated training session at the same time. And I could enjoy the beauty and still keep my pace up and do whatever and well, naturally, I'm looking forward to going to Hawaii to do the one there. But that doesn't come till next year when Pat and I get things worked out to get there. Pittsburgh was kind of nice because I grew up in that area. Actually, the one I'm looking forward to the most is the last one I'm going to do. I already know where that's at. I will be doing the Rochester, Minnesota Marathon on Memorial Day weekend. And Minnesota will be the 50th state, and it'll be the 50th race. And, well, I'll probably do more than 50, but it'll be the 50th one to count, and the camp is just down the road from there. So not only will I be running it, but a bunch of people from camp and others are going to come to do it with me.
All right, so I heard that you're looking forward to Hawaii. No love for Alaska?
Actually, yeah, I don't. I'm looking forward to going to Alaska too. You know, it's one of the places that I know that the race up there is in June, and I know it's still going to be kind of cold when I do it up there. But I'm looking forward to all of them actually. Each one has, because I've been really looking at the races. You know, there's so many in each state that I've been looking at, and it's like trying to pick the one that I want to do in California when there's so many of them. It was the same thing like down in Texas. I decided on the Houston Marathon that has very, I mean, they've had some chair users in it before, but it has very few. But here again, I'm going to work with somebody around there that I know and is going to do it with me. And the goal is to help out their program down there more. So looking forward to that one. Arizona, when we go to do, we're going to do Phoenix. I have a son that lives there, so you know, always looking forward to that one. But as big as Phoenix is, I'll be the first person ever to do it in a wheelchair. The three that I'm doing up in June, I'm looking forward to them. But I'm the only person that's going to be doing them in an adaptive category. And you know, I've talked to a lot of people there, and to make sure that the courses that I can even do them. I had one lined up for Iowa that I was excited about doing, and then they called me a week before the race and said, we're going to refund your money because as we went out, we found that the state did part of the road, and there was about a mile and a half of road that was tore up that they were still going to run the race, but it was all going to be gravel. And it's like I can't do gravel in the chair.
And so if you're like the only person competing in a chair in some of these marathons, how accommodating are some of the marathons you've been to?
You know, just a minute.
You're good.
They've been very good. Nebraska, when I went to do Nebraska, there was each one I spent a lot of time on the phone with whoever the race director is, getting stuff set up and that. And when I got to Nebraska, it was a matter of, okay, they had a bunch of people that they've always had do it that, you know, get pushed by people in the racing type push chairs. Mm-hmm. So they had a half dozen of those. And they wanted me to start with them after all the runners. And I said, I don't mind that. I said, however, you know, I'm going to pass all these runners. And the guy said, well, how fast are you going to do it? And I said, based upon what you're talking about, that it's a flat course, and almost the whole course was on old rails to trails parts, bike paths and that have been put through the city and that. weeks ago, and it was raining so hard. The support rider, he missed the turn, but he realized it real quick, and we just looped around and went back to get on it. But there was places there that it was raining so hard that you had a hard time seeing where the signs were or the people to turn. So it made it interesting, but it's a lot of communication and then putting out the information, trying to find a local group to work with. Actually, the real pain in this whole thing isn't the training, it isn't doing the marathons, it's figuring out all the logistics.
Yeah. And by logistics, do you mean like the traveling and trying to find a place you want to help out, or what do you mean?
Well, a little bit of both. Travel time, figuring out how we're going to get there, setting up hotel rooms, and then, looking for the charity who I'm going to work with to help out. And because I've worked with AMBUCS, I'm a life member of AMBUCS, because of all they've given millions of dollars in scholarships to therapists over the years, as well as the Amtrak's and that. There's chapters in 27 states, so I pretty much can find a local chapter somewhere that can help a little bit. But we do all that, and finding a hotel and getting one that's close, and then because till you get it's one thing if you're a runner, you can go to just about any hotel and get in and out, or it's like even as a chair user, it's tough to find accessible ones. And then when you're looking for accessible hotel plus enough room to get in and out and move a hand cycle around, or a racing chair, and all the stuff that you need, or where you can park, and how close are you to the venue, and can I be close enough that I don't have to drive to the venue, and working out all those details. It takes some time and effort, because you're looking at hotels, you're looking at the routes where you're at. I typically try to get in a day early so that I can drive through the route to see whether there's going to be any problems anywhere. It's like when I did the Beyond the Beach one, I got there early and I drove through where the route was, because they had a copy of the route, and I saw one place where they actually were going to go up onto a trail, but they were going to get to it via a boardwalk. And there was no way for me to do the 90-degree turns on the boardwalk. It would have been hard to do it in a regular wheelchair, let alone do it in a racer. So I had to go up around, and then I found a place where I could come through the parking lot and get onto the trail, and not using the boardwalk to get there. So I actually, till I got done with that one, instead of 26.2 mile, I actually put in 26.7. But it's those type of things that you work. But then I talked to the race director after that and told him what I did, and he said, well, you know what, maybe next year we'll just reroute so that we're not doing that. Because it was something that he hadn't thought about. He had never had a person in a chair try to do it before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know.
those are the things that are kind of neat to deal with before and after.
Sure. Yeah, I know, as a lot of our listeners know, like, I have to kind of experience some of the things you do when I'm traveling, so I always look at the hotels and the routes and all of that stuff, so I can certainly relate to a lot of the experiences you're going through, and thank you. I feel like that would be an educational experience for not only you, but also the organizers of the marathons you attend. So thank you for doing that, and I think we're going to have to, unfortunately, end the segment, but thank you so much, Ron, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. I'll keep you updated as time goes on. I got another couple years of this.
Certainly, yeah, bring it on. We'll definitely share everything you have. Yeah. All right.
Sounds good, Ryan. You guys have a great day. Talk to you later.
Welcome back to Rollin Illini here on WPGU 107.1 and UPTV. A fun little segment we did there with Ron Malik, of course. And Lebanon University has competed in wheelchair basketball, para-archery, not bad, considering trying that, and of course, marathoning. As we learned, he's doing 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 months. That's a mouthful. I think I got it right.
Yes, and he's 63.
He's 63.
Not a relatively young person. Maybe younger than most,
Yeah,
but doing more
yeah.
than me, people of my age, so.
Right. I was amazed how he's going to these different areas and he's the only one in a chair. I feel like that would be quite an experience for not only him but also the organizers of the marathons. He talked about some experiences he's had of encountering one marathon that's not even accessible for him to compete on, and then he's also having to work around like arrangements and logistics of getting there and getting back, and another thing that stood out was his communication with his coach. Did you guys find that interesting?
That was crazy to me because he was all the way in Spain. So
In Spain.
just coordinating everything and obviously being diligent about his workouts is one thing, but to have to go through apps and emails to get all your workout regimens and things like that and still being able to complete it and stay on the same page is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that would be a little challenging to communicate with somebody who's that far away and having to relay so much information about kind of yourself, but with the help of technology, you have monitors and everything.
Yeah, he was so casual about it too. When you asked like, so how do you keep in contact with your coach? He kind of explained like, oh yeah, I just use these apps, you know, like we sort of Skype in with one another here and there, but it does seem like there'd be a lot of obstacles without meeting face to face.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, I have never been to another country, and I can't imagine having to communicate about my physical health to somebody else. That would take about 3 days in itself. I know just for my interviews with the Paralympic Committee, I have to use WhatsApp, a nice little app, and Skype and FaceTime. But to use the apps that Ron is using that include monitors and have different statistics, that's really neat. I might check that out. Monitor myself, see how I'm progressing and my exercise that is non-existent.
Certainly high-tech stuff, but also to bring up your first point too, I think it is admirable that a lot of these races, he may be one of the few people there who is in a chair, just kind of being there as a presence, kind of bringing visibility to this movement and what he's trying to accomplish. I mean, he's talked about some of his fundraising efforts all around the country, and I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, I know I'm not sure exactly how much he's raised up until this point, but he made a point of saying that kind of like all that money is going to go back to children. So he's definitely given back and making sure that like others kind of had the opportunity he did competing when he was younger.
Right. I think this feat of doing the 50 marathons kind of has multiple purposes to it. I think maybe he's partly doing it for himself just to keep at this, but it's also doing it to raise money for different charities and bring awareness about adaptive sports and athletics, and as I mentioned, raising money along the way. I think that's a great kind of combination of things that I think a lot of people kind of try out on the Paralympic movement for sure. But I found his discussion on like the accessibility very interesting, because I would expect all marathons to be accessible, at least the routes.
Yeah, you'd think that just because it has to be somewhat flat for people to run on it.
Right, yeah. How is a road not accessible? Well, actually, I mean, just for me, I've never done a marathon. I think I should. I should. It would take about 7 days.
I feel like you've been talking about doing like a 10K for a while now, haven't you?
I can do a 10K. I'll do the Illinois 10K. You guys can run alongside me. I'll have the GoPro on my head. It'll be a very boring video of me falling behind everybody. I am competing alongside a guy in a chair, and we're just way behind, and I'm just having to catch up to everybody and be hungry.
All right, well, if that is going to happen, then I think I'm going to have to start my training soon, because it's been a while since I went over to the Arc.
Yeah, I know, it's okay, me too. I don't go to the Arc to exercise, I will say that.
One interesting thing that he did say, though, was how even though he's in a chair, he passes up a lot of the other racers.
Right.
So
right.
A lot of the times, if he is the only person that's in a wheelchair in a marathon, he'll be put like out by himself, and he'll just be cruising along. And he said in one of his races it felt like a training session, which I do not know any marathon training sessions that feel like that and don't feel like marathons and terrible and hurting the entire time. But I thought that was a really cool point because I didn't even think that was a thing. I just thought they would be relatively the same speed, but obviously he'll be way out in front. So
Right, and one question I've been asked along the way is, how does the speed of a wheelchair racer compare with that of an able-bodied person? I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but I feel like the wheelchair racer is faster because when they go downhill, they don't have to push. They just accelerate downhill and keep on going. They don't have to constantly move their arms or legs to keep at a constant speed. Now, a runner, James, I know you've done some running. You have to keep going and you don't get a break.
yes, and those calf muscles get to talking to you at about like the 10th or 11th mile, and you're hurting. But like you said, it's an advantage in that sense. But at the same time, it's still an amazing feat. Like, to do as many marathons as he's doing at the age he's doing them at is absolutely ridiculous, but remarkable.
Yeah, long story short, I feel like, a lot of those times probably line up closer to like cyclists we see. And he talked about kind of going out with his handler. I thought it was funny when he said something about was like 4 lanes of traffic on the interstate, and just it seems like he's already had to overcome quite a few obstacles when it comes to these marathons, just because in a lot of them he may be one of the only people there who is in a chair competing. But at the same time, like, I think it's just awesome what he's doing right now. He definitely has a plan in place. He talked about how he shows up, he checks out the race an entire day in advance to make sure. And I think by doing that also, it's kind of he's paving a way for other racers in the future so that these races, will be accommodating for them.
Definitely. I so agree. No, I think that it's a very good point. Well, I think even with the radio show, not to stroke my ego too much, even though I do like to stroke my ego. I think with us and with Ron, we're kind of creating a routes for people to take in the future, and creating opportunities to educate and grow and bring awareness to para sports. So I think what we're doing here is great, and Ron making different locations accessible. I can't imagine doing that. I've tried to push for accessibility here on campus. Not easy, but when you're trying to work with somebody in a completely different state, oh my gosh. How would you visualize that? I feel like it would be too late just to get there and realize, you know what, this is not going to work. I spent $1,000 to fly out here to Arizona. It's not going to work. So I'm sure that's kind of a frustrating process, but rewarding in the end and very important. So I have a lot of respect for Ron, and I couldn't do 3 marathons in 3 days at any age. Could you, James?
No, I couldn't. The farthest I ever run is 13.1, so a half marathon, and it was taxing, and I felt like I really, at that point in my short-lived running career, I was training for it probably about 6 months when I did it. So this was not like in some race or like for an event. It was just a casual, like, I'll just run out and see how far I can go. And I got to 13.1 miles, and I was absolutely exhausted when I got back to my house. I remember my mom thought, like, this kid is nuts. Like, you've been gone for an hour and a half or however long it was, like running around the neighborhood, and you're sweating and, about to fall out on the floor. But for him to do that repeatedly again, and it also speaks to the level of training he's had and how good of care he takes care of his body, because obviously you can't do these things repeatedly without hurting something unless you're taking care of your body and doing what you're supposed to. And obviously he's done that. He was even talking about how this weekend he's going out to train and do a 30-mile like casual run. Like, there's no casual 30 miles, but when you're in peak condition, even at his age, I guess those things get a little easier.
Right, and it's probably a little different for him, because if you look at Tatiana or Amanda, they're taking classes here, but I think part of the reason they're around is to work in the training facility. I'm not down there all the time, but I've never seen Ron there. I've never seen Ron Malik. training down there. Not a bad thing, but I do know Tatiana and probably Amanda have their own set of rollers at their house. I remember watching a video a while back of Tatiana training at her house or wherever she was, and she had a roller set up in her garage, pushing away. So there are ways to train indoors with wheelchair racing, and progressing instead of having to go outside in freezing cold weather and go 26 miles. But that brings up an interesting thing we've been pursuing here on Rollin Illini, and that is our project with Amanda McCrory.
Yep, me and Ryan had the chance to go visit her, what was it, I want to say Monday afternoon, and then Tuesday morning, and, interview her and just get an insight as to what she's kind of accomplished and the things she's done over her career. We won't say too much because I don't want to just give it away.
Right.
But it was definitely cool to hear her insight as far as being a wheelchair athlete, a Paralympic athlete, and somebody who's accomplished a lot, not only for the Illini and for Illinois, but for Team USA.
Yeah, so we talked about anything from her upcoming Japan marathon to a flying cow. And she asked us afterward, so what's the project about? It's a secret. Actually, we told her, but we can't tell you guys.
So it's really a secret.
But she'll be in Japan here competing in a marathon. A bunch of her teammates on Toyota will be with her, and then after that we have the New York City Marathon. So marathon after marathon, and NYC is the last marathon of the season, and we'll have a nice break after that. I feel like a very much needed break for Illinois.
Yeah, make sure to like our page on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Rollin Illini. I know that content will be coming out soon. One question I have for you, Ryan, is can you tell us a little bit about that marathon Japan? What Amanda is going to be competing in this weekend?
Great question, Will. Oh my gosh, you sound like a journalist. So she is competing in the 37th. Oh wow, the 37th Toyota International Wheelchair Marathon. The marathon is in OITA. I'm not familiar with Japanese, but maybe I should. So there are a few big names in the marathon. Not only Amanda, but we also have Manuela Schar, obviously a big rival or competitor of Tatiana's. No Tatiana, just 4 women. And then on the men's side, no Illinois racers, but one big name is Marcel Hug. Obviously a big winner. Winning on the men's side, Ernst van Dijk of South Africa. Big name, of course. And so, yeah, it's a relatively small marathon, but as Amanda said, it'll be a great kind of group of people, all from Toyota, and she is sponsored by Toyota. They help provide her with chairs, but as I think we'll mention in the project, that brings up some interesting things she has to work around as far as equipment. She has the most expensive chair here. Not bad. I don't think I have the most expensive chair. I will say mine is more expensive than hers.
I remember when we went to practice and we were talking with Adam early in the season for a track practice.
Mm-hmm.
Head coach Adam Bleakney. One thing he brought up was her chair, and I think he seemed a little jealous, if you ask me, when he was talking about the price tag that it ran up with that sponsorship deal.
$20,000, boy! My gosh. I mean, I would be very thankful to have a sponsor like that. Otherwise, I would not be competing. But I guess if you're motivated enough, you find a way. You work with some charities or get donations like Ron is doing. But yeah, very good interviews today. Fun talking with Amanda this week. We'll be back with her soon. We'll be talking more about the flying cow. Might have a picture of the flying cow. Or multiple. But you guys brought up the idea of me talking about acting. Bad idea. I missed last week's show, as I mentioned earlier. Did you listen to last week's show? Oh my gosh. They made fun of me the whole entire time.
It was so much fun without this guy here getting on us and cutting me off when I'm trying to do my little intro, which I've only done maybe 3 times.
But yeah, now that you're here with us, Ryan, could you kind of take us through then your play and like sort of what you guys are trying to bring awareness to in your group that you've been working with this semester?
Inner voices.
Inner voices. My gosh.
It's not horror, is it?
No, it's a lot of fun. So we just finished up the show. Well, we'll finish it up tonight.
To you listeners, now it's over. You're gonna have to wait for the next edition of it.
Yeah. So my role, I have many roles. I feel like I got into this by accident because I'm in an acting class, not this one. And for the first week, my professor was on a humanitarian clowning trip. That's right, he was a clown. He has brought some of that clowning material into the class, and I can say I've never seen it before. But so in the first week he was gone, and the director of Inner Voices was our substitute, and when she walked in to the class, it's like, "Oh my gosh, Ryan, I'm so glad to see you. I thought you would take this class." I'm like, "Wait, what? Who are you? I've never seen you before. Never talked with you before. I don't know anything about you." And she seemed to know everything about me. And so she asked me to try out an audition for Inner Voices. I'm like, you're a nice lady, but no thank you. I'm not an actor. I have not acted since elementary school when I was a hot dog vendor, and I dropped the hot dog. I served hairy plastic hot dogs. They were disgusting. I dropped all my ingredients.
Wait, what?
It was like
You can't just casually gloss over this. What?
I think we can.
This sounds like a very integral part of your growing up,
I was
Ryan.
traumatized by the experience. No, I was a hot dog vendor in a class play, and we didn't use real hot dogs. I was serving plastic hot dogs, and one show I dropped it on the ground, and I can't pick it up. It was on the ground for about 20 seconds, and so I'm sure it was disgusting, but I went ahead and served it up. Here, take this nasty hot dog. It's this rock. I think you'll enjoy it. And so, I'm not serving any hot dogs in Inner Voices. Long story short, man, I did not expect to go on a tangent about hot dogs, but we did. Anyways,
those were not FDA approved.
no, they were not.
So what can you tell us about Inner Voices?
Oh yeah, back to that. So I declined the original offer to audition for Inner Voices. I just was not comfortable auditioning. I'm not an actor. And so the director said, okay, I'll give you an invitation to do social media for us. Help us get us out there in the media. Like, all right, I'll think about that. It's a legitimate offer. And so I thought about it. I'm like, if that's going to help me with new experience, get out there, I'll try it. And so I show up for a rehearsal. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be a social media guy. I'll tell some of their stories. I'm just going to sit back here and do nothing. And so in every rehearsal, they're playing games. And I show up, and I'm like, I'm going to sit here in the back. I'm not going to participate in any games. As they're sitting in a circle. And how long is this tangent? Oh, we're on 4 minutes now. So I get there, and I am involved in the game. And we have multiple counselors involved with the program because we touch on serious topics. And the counselor is like, Ryan, you better watch out what you're doing here. You're going to get yourself in the play. Well, I did. I play the role of 3 different kids. I am 3 kids in one. I don't know how that happens. I guess I have so much energy. I'm 3 kids all at the same time. And we talk about environmental justice, and we're kind of personalizing those issues. So one thing that is brought up is the concept of mental health and domestic violence, and how, for example, environmental issues can affect people. We bring up an instance of a farmer in Illinois committing suicide because he did not have enough materials to produce his product or whatever he was producing. And then we talk about different countries and how the issues in different countries can impact people and us, and we have a guy who's kind of a reporter, like an anchor in all of this, and he's kind of narrating it, and he does the whole thing with a smile. And
So you didn't get the anchor role?
no, I didn't. No, I was furious. No, the purpose of that was to, well, I don't know the purpose, but he's smiling through the whole thing. He's smiling as he talks about suicide, and it just gives off the effect of, wait, are journalists really that accurate? Like, are they really telling us an accurate story? Are they feeling the way they should? Like, should we really smile through suicide? Probably not. So, we've had some interesting discussions after the show of, did we feel this was an accurate portrayal of the media? And some people say yes. And I always try to raise my hand up very, like, subtly and so nobody knows, but then they call on me, and I just say, unfortunately, that has been the reality. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not your average journalist. And so that's kind of the play in summary on a 7-minute tangent that included hot dogs. So we have a lot of fun. The last show was last night. We'll have more in the future. We'll be exploring the topic of domestic violence, a very personal issue for a lot of people, too many people, but it's an important topic. I think I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be really hard, but I'm looking forward to it. We've already discussed that quite a bit, and I'm amazed by what I've heard. So yes, I don't plan to miss any more shows. Unless I have to travel to report on wheelchair basketball, which could happen. That happened last year.
We'll see. That could be a cool thing to do.
We'll definitely find some way to get you on the show, regardless.
Oh, gosh.
Or we'll just make fun of you again for a week.
Oh!
Yeah, I really like it when James hosts.
Stop!
Take that. That honestly scared me. I did not expect. Well, for our listeners, he tells me that I can do the intro. And then. Stop!
And then I stopped you. You've gone too far.
Wasn't expecting that, but definitely hilarious. And as always, good to have you back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back. It's always a fun show. It's always a good break from homework. Always fun to laugh about things. Just like on Inner Voices, we touch on important topics with kind of a smile and a sense of humor when it calls for it. Not all doom and gloom. We have fun and we talk about wheelchair racing with Tatiana McFadden. She's on the wall. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. I can't even see the autograph in here. We're in a room. Man, we're like sitting so close to each other.
Yeah, it's good these guys showered last night.
Or did we?
I would hope.
Sprang a lot of deodorant. But I'll be back here next week, of course, with all of these guys, I believe. And then you'll be able to see my return. So thank you for listening again. It's Rollin Illini here on WPGU 107.1 and UPTV. James Boyd, Will Gerard, I'm Ryan.